welcome you all to our next forum here on our senior services study that we're doing in the town of Irondequoit. I'm actually delighted to see so many people here turn out tonight to hear some more where we are in the process of evaluating the services that we're providing for our older residents, and to talk about ways we can do a better job really making Irondequoit a town for a lifetime for everyone. And when we talked a month or two ago at our last forum, we had indicated that a survey was going out. We've heard from over 1,600 residents over the last couple of months about their needs, and I'm really just so happy and grateful that we had so many respondents to that survey, because it shows we're doing the right thing. This was the right project to do, in the right direction to spend some time on. So hopefully we can see some real results. So tonight I'm going to introduce Mary Rose McBride from Lifespan, who's going to go through, as you recall, Lifespan is partnering with the town to do this project. We're going to go through some of the survey results that we heard from residents, and talk about a few of the preliminary, again, this is still a preliminary stage, but some preliminary recommendations that Lifespan's going to make to the town. And then at the conclusion of the presentation, we'll have a copy of the executive summary that you could take home with you, read through it, digest it, and then be able to get back in contact with the town via phone, email, come in and talk to me, come talk to the staff who I'll introduce to you, and we can make sure we get to the point where we can have a final report here in the next several weeks, and the town can start implementing, hopefully, some of these recommendations. Before we get started, I do want to recognize a few people who are in the room so that you know who they are. Tonight, the entire town board is here tonight to hear these recommendations. We have our Deputy Supervisor, John Perticone, who's on the town board back there. Right next to John is Councilwoman Nicole Hushler-Ray. Councilman Dave Seeley is here. And Councilmember Lori Barnum is here as well. And then also our Planning and Zoning Administrator, Carrie Ivers, who's been working on this project, is back up against the wall there. And then I also have Sarah Culp, who's our Constituent Services Coordinator, who helps to coordinate all these services that we're providing for our residents here in town. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome up to the podium Mary Rose McBride, who's going to walk us through where we are. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. And I want to say that this has been a really fun project. We were commenting that we were last here in October, 6 months ago. It was also pouring that night, but we had a public forum here, and I recognized many of your faces. Some of you. How many of you were here at that forum? All right, okay, good. I recognize some faces. And so we've done a lot of work since then, and heard a lot of comments, and gathered a lot of data about the town and about older adult services and what you all think. So I'm going to go through first a little overview of the demographics of the town. Then I'll tell you a little bit about the forums and the focus groups we did, and we'll get into the actual results of the mailed and online survey. So Irondequoit asked us to really look at transportation, housing, and older adult services in the town. And in order to do that, again, we looked at the demographics. We wanted community input. We looked at, and we'll be giving to the town a list of the currently available services, not only just for Irondequoit residents, but also throughout the county. We also did a needs assessment and a gap analysis. We looked at best practices for age-friendly communities, and there's a huge movement right now throughout the country to really look at what age-friendly practices are and how to make communities age-friendly. And then we made some recommendations and recommended plans that the town can take, and some of them can be implemented maybe short-term, but others are definitely longer-term. So let's just stop for a minute and think about this. The age wave that we are just beginning really is really historic. There's a huge transformation going on in our country related to the older adult population. Let's see if I can do this. You can see this in 1900. There were about 3.2 million Americans who were 65 or older. 2020, in about 4 years, there will be 56 million. 10 years or 20 years after that, there'll be 82 million. And then by 2060, almost 100 million people in our country are going to be 65 or older. Now, that really has to do with two things that are happening. One is the aging of the largest, well, it was the largest, now the millennials have overtaken us, but the baby boom population, the baby boom generation, was one of the largest generations ever born in our country. And right now, the leading edge of the baby boomers are hitting 70. We're also, though, thanks to medical advances, we're living longer. We're living healthier lives. We're living longer, actually, even with chronic diseases. So both of those trends are contributing to this huge age wave. And, I have to make a little political aside because I hear our politicians talking all the time about different things nationally. No one's talking about the demographics of our country and what's going to happen when 1 in 4 Americans, 25% of us, are 65 or older. It's a huge transformation that affects everything, really, in our culture, our communities, our transportation system, our housing system, our social security system, our retirement systems. Just I had to add that, of course. So I want to take this off because I can't turn around and do this. So when we look at Irondequoit versus Monroe County versus the whole United States, you can see that in the town, the population of those 50 plus, 40% right now. Higher than Monroe County, higher than the US. Let's look at 65 plus, 18.3%, higher than Monroe County as a whole, higher than the US. 75 and older, same story. You've got 10% of your population, 75 or older in Irondequoit. 85 and older, 4% in Irondequoit versus 2.4 for the county, 1.8 for the United States. Even the median age, obviously, is older in Irondequoit, 43 versus 37 for the entire country. So Irondequoit is an aging community. I did some of these population statistics at earlier forums and different things, so I'm just going to go through them kind of fast. But you can see that 4% that's 85 and older works out to 2,000 residents. And then down the line, 65 and older, there's about 9,400 residents. And actually, this number is changing every single day because 10,000 baby boomers are turning 65 in our country every single day. So this number is a moving target. And then you've got the 50 and older population in Irondequoit, 20,600 people. And then this just breaks it down again in a different way, actually. The town, compared to other towns around the county, here's Irondequoit over here. 25% of your population is 60 and older. 25.5 actually, which is Best Gates, which is 25%. And then you can see the rest of the towns. The population 65 and older is in pink. Only Gates beats you by a little bit. 75 and older, only really Brighton. And Brighton has a lot of older adult housing and nursing homes. Also Henrietta and East Rochester, for 65 and older. So you can see that you are definitely an aging community. The age segment breakdown by male and female. At 60 plus, you're 57% female, 43% male. And then you can see the progression. By the time 85 and older, it's 70-30. Sorry, guys. Marital status, and these numbers are greater than 100% because some people fall into different categories. Never married, 7% of the population, 65 and older in Irondequoit. And this number nationally and locally will keep actually increasing because the younger generations aren't getting married at such rates as the older generations did. 9% divorced, almost 30% are widowed. 53% are married, and 32% live alone. Nationally, about 30% of older adults. That's okay. Nationally, about 30% of older adults 65 and older live alone, so it's a little bit higher here too. Rent versus own in Irondequoit, 78% of residents 65 and older own their homes, 22% rent. Poverty in Irondequoit. So 81% of the population is greater than 150% of the poverty rate. 9% is below 100% of the poverty rate. The poverty rate for one single person right now in our country, I believe, is $11,600. Something like that. And then 150 to 149% of the poverty rate, I believe that number, the poverty level for that's about $16,000. We look at vehicles. Transportation is a big subject, obviously. Total housing units, and this is the way the census does it, housing units with no vehicle, 9% of the people 65 and older. And then we broke it down by renter occupied units, 5%, and owner occupied at 4%. Disability, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, about 70% of people 65 and older in Irondequoit report no disability. 31% report having some kind of a disability. An ambulatory disability increases 24% 75 and older. And you can see the difference here, 65 to 74, just 1%, and it goes up. So we held two different things in the fall. We held public forums and we held focus groups. One of the public forums was actually right here in this room. And we really listened to what people were saying. And the question we asked was, The question we asked was, what would make living in Irondequoit as an older adult even better? What would make it better for you? So the topics that came up, transportation. People said, we need more options. And transportation is one of the main reasons people always call us at Lifespan and Elder Source every single day. Housing. People said, we'd like to see more housing options in the town. We have a lot of older homes. What is missing, people said, was congregate living, affordable apartments, condos, townhouses that people could move into that wouldn't require maintenance. Communication. This was a big one, and it came out in the survey also. People really feel like they need more information about services for older adults, and we'll talk a lot more about that a little bit later. Home support services, another big issue. Also in the survey was another big issue. People are a little, frustrated that they can't. They don't know who to call for help. They don't know who to call when something breaks in the house or they need that air conditioner taken out of the window. Who's reliable? Who can help me? Additional amenities, things came up like shopping in the mall, of course, more restaurant options, different things like that. And then the final thing that came up and was a topic throughout all of our conversations was the Pine Grove Senior Center. And people, those that we talked to and those that responded to the survey really felt like it's not serving their needs enough. So those were the public forum comments. In the focus groups, which were held in different locations and they were smaller, so like the public forum, we might have had 45, 50 people in it. The focus groups were 10 people, 12 people, 7 people. And the interesting thing was, though, discussions really echoed what we heard throughout everything. But what was top of mind was older adults really want to contribute. People who came to the focus group said, we want to be able to contribute back to our communities. We want to be active and engaged. Home upkeep, again, and taxes, of course, came up. We couldn't avoid it, but we didn't really talk a lot about it because death and taxes, right? Communication, again, people felt like communication really needs to improve. People said in the focus groups that transportation, yes, they need options, but they really said it's really kind of a lifestyle and quality of life issue. Yes, you need transportation to go to doctor's appointments, but people wanted more than that. They wanted to be able to go. I remember one woman said, I haven't been to a movie in 7 years. I haven't been to a play. I haven't been to a museum. People really want that kind of enrichment, it seemed like. Housing again came up. Short supply, we need it. Public and outdoor spaces came up as a concern, and we'll talk about this in the survey also. Obviously when we drive around the town, you see that some areas have sidewalks and some have streetlights and some don't, that kind of thing. People also brought up they want some place to walk in the winter, and I think the mall used to serve as a place like that. So they want some place where they can do that. And then again, the senior center, we call them older adult centers, social participation is lacking, people said. And now I'm going to turn it over to Paul Kakamas. Paul is Vice President of Program for Lifespan, and he's going to walk through some of the additional information.
Thank you, Mary Rose, and thank you, all of you who came out tonight to hear the results of this survey, of this needs assessment and gap analysis of senior services in Irondequoit. And I want to thank the town of Irondequoit for the opportunity to do this very interesting project. As Mary Rose said, I'm Paul Kakamas. I'm the Vice President for Program at Lifespan. And I volunteered to do this, not just because I'm in administration there, but because I have a stake in the results, because I live in Irondequoit. I've been a resident here for over 40 years, my wife and myself. And so what happens as a result of this will really affect me, because I would like to stay in Irondequoit. So one of the components of the survey we did, or the study that we did, was a survey that was sent to 9,382 households in Irondequoit, and it was returned by, as Adam said, over 1,600 residents, which was really a remarkable return for this kind of 19% of households responded. And it may not seem like a lot, but for this kind of a survey, it really is a remarkable result. There was also an online survey option, and that was answered by 133 residents. But the majority chose to return their surveys by mail. So who answered the survey? These are some demographics. If you bear with me, I'll go through them. It looks a little complicated up there. But in terms of men versus women, almost 40% of the respondents were men and 61% women. This next statistic is very revealing, because over 65% of the people who replied have lived in Irondequoit for over 30 years. So we have a very long-lived, long residency population in Irondequoit. And 13% have lived in the town for 20 to 29 years. So 60 to 69, almost 40% were between the ages of 60 and 69. 31% were over between 70 and 79. That should be a 79. And 28% were over 80. In terms of income, 88% had incomes below $15,000, which is almost the poverty level. As Mary Rose indicated, the poverty level for this year the federal poverty level is about 11,800 or so for one person, and I think it's about close to 15,000 for a couple, for two people. So only 8% are living at that level. And then 22% were between $15,000 and $25,000, and you can see the rest. So the results showed that a lot of residents were very interested, like myself, in staying in Irondequoit. We're very hopeful that any changes that are made will increase the chances that as we grow older, we can stay in the town and not have to move to another location or another level of care, a facility, because of growing disability or desire to look for better shopping or amenities. The first finding was that 94% indicated that there's a driver, or they are a driver, or there is a driver in the household. So the vast majority have access to transportation. But there's a sizable number, 6%, for whom transportation could be a big obstacle. 90% responded that they had adequate transportation options, but again, 10% did not. And so that's in this kind of a town, all over the Rochester area, really, without transportation, you can become isolated very quickly. And then 92% felt that they felt very safe in their neighborhoods. Personally, I feel safe in my neighborhood, and that's really a remarkable finding, I think. Irondequoit's a very safe place to live. The next question had to do with street lighting and sidewalk lighting being adequate. And 55% felt that sidewalk and street lighting was adequate. So there may be some room for improvement there, and that'll show up in the recommendations in the final report. Housing options adequate. Here was this indicates a split between the mail survey and the online survey. In the mail survey, 51% indicated that the housing options in Irondequoit were adequate, but only 36% online said they were. So there's really a desire here for more housing options. As Mary Rose said, probably some indicated condos, townhouses, affordable housing, affordable apartments in Irondequoit. And then 56% said they needed help with chores, like raking leaves, snow removal in the winter, minor household chores around the house. Now this one was kind of surprising to us at Lifespan, because this was a question about enough information or access to information about older adult services, about aging services. And 29% online said that they had adequate information about older adult services, and 36% by mail, which we find inadequate. This was a very low number because we pride ourselves on offering unbiased information through Elder Source and New York Connects at Lifespan. If you call New York Connects at 325-2800, you can speak with phone advisors who are expert in community services, aging services. And we were kind of shocked that so many people didn't realize that this is a source of information for them. So as a result of the survey, we've really changed our strategy, the communication strategy at Lifespan. Most people indicated that they would rather receive information by mail rather than online, by texts or email. So we've decided to send targeted mailings to residents of Irondequoit. The next question had to do with adequate grocery store options, and 93% indicated that there were adequate grocery store accessibility in Irondequoit. I would have to agree with that. We have lots of access to good grocery stores. And then, however, adequate access to for other shopping options. This was somewhat lower. Online respondents said only 66% said that there was adequate access to other shopping options, and 77% by mail. And a number of people mentioned the mall and the fact that they regret that the mall has been closed for so long. That was really an important resource in terms of shopping. Senior center, did the senior center meet your needs? And only 8% online indicated that it did, 90% by mail. So again, a number of recommendations will have to do with the senior center. And then adequate access to social, educational, and recreational activities. 73% said that access was adequate for them. But a quarter, are missing out for one reason or another, possibly because of transportation or the lack of resources right in Irondequoit. And then access to health care. Online, 89% said that access to health care was adequate, 94% by mail. It doesn't seem to be a huge problem in Irondequoit. As I was saying before, we asked about the best way to communicate, and 75% online and 83% by mail, not surprisingly, said that mail was the best way to communicate with them. So as I said before, we have changed our mode of communicating with residents of Irondequoit, and we'll make similar recommendations to the town of Irondequoit. We also talked about, asked about a senior living council, a council of older residents who could discuss problems in the town and review the progress in fulfilling or achieving the recommendations made as a result of this report, and discussing emerging issues related to aging services. And 86% felt that was a good idea, setting up a senior living council. In fact, 300 respondents offered to serve on the council as volunteers. And then we asked how many of you are caregivers for a spouse or another adult, a neighbor, or a disabled child, adult child, and 18% by mail said that you were, and 20% of you said online that you were caregivers for another person. And I'm going to turn this over to Mary Rose now, who will talk about the World Health Organization 8 age-friendly domains for communities.
Thank you, Paul. So I said earlier that there's a huge national, in fact now international effort, because not only is our country aging, the countries of most developed, the developed countries of the world are aging also. It's not just us, it's Italy, it's England, it's every country, Germany that you can think of, Japan. So the WHO is the World Health Organization, and they've been doing a lot of work looking at what makes a community age-friendly. I'm driving the camera guys crazy, aren't I? I have to walk. So they came up with 8 domains of things that communities should look at when looking at age-friendly things. And so I'll talk about them. And what we did was, in looking at Irondequoit and in looking at the survey results and the public forums and everything everybody said, we compared Irondequoit to these 8 domains, and I'll get into that in a second. So outdoor spaces, having age-friendly outdoor spaces is important. Are there benches for people to sit on in public places when they're taking a walk? Is something as simple as that. Transportation, obviously, is a huge need. We don't want people to feel isolated. Housing, social participation, respect and social inclusion, which actually goes along with civic participation and employment. Lifespan's been doing, and we're going to be doing our 20th in 2 weeks, celebration of aging. It's really important, and it's changing, but it's really important that older adults feel valued and feel like they can contribute to the community. They feel like they have respect and they can be socially included, and that they can civically participate, and that they can work if they want to. I think something like, it's going up, something like, what's the number? 23% of people 65 and older are employed right now. So another domain was communication and information, knowing what's available, knowing what the services are, and then community support and health services. So those are the 8 domains. So what we did was, again, we looked at those domains and we looked at the data we got back, and we did a comparison. So in the domain of outdoor space is, as it relates to Irondequoit, what we saw from the survey results and from what people were telling us is that maybe one of the things that should be done is a sidewalk and transit walkability study. And you know what? This doesn't mean that the town sends out Carrie and whoever else to look at sidewalks. It might mean that if the town forms a senior living council, that the members of that council go out and do a walkability study in the town and come back with recommendations of their own. Another thing to look at would be, perhaps, again, along with sidewalks, is lighting improvements in areas where there aren't street lights. Another thing to look at is, as construction happens in the town, look at age-friendly construction methods. Look at all of these domains when things are being changed. And then again, depending on what happens with the mall or whatever it's going to become, assess whether the town can improve access to outdoor walking for the winter. That really was an important piece. In the domain of transportation, we have to increase knowledge about the options and actually improve what the options are. And this is, this is not, all of these things are not just true for Irondequoit, they're true for all of our communities. They're true for the city of Rochester, they're true for Pittsford and Brighton. One of our recommendations is just to assess whether the town can purchase a bus. Irondequoit asked us for what's going on in other areas. Well, Greece just purchased a bus so that they can take older adults to cultural events, so that women can go to Jiva, perhaps. We suggested partnering. Lifespan has a program called Give a Lift, where we recruit volunteer drivers and we train them and do background checks on them. And then assign them to little volunteer transportation programs throughout the community. So perhaps the town or the senior council or whoever would consider partnering with us so we can try to start a different transportation option in the town. Talk with RTS about bus stops. One of the things that came up was, I guess since the bus stops were changed maybe within the last year or so, they're very far apart, like on St. Paul Boulevard. Maybe we can talk to them about, changing that, considering the demographics of this area. I included Uber and Lyft. Now, some very strange things have happened with Uber lately, but they are actually piloting different projects around the country. San Francisco's one, other communities, to really provide rides for older adults. It might be the wave of the future. We don't know. And then I put in here to consider opening a dialogue with St. Anne's. One of the discussion points in the forum was that, someone had moved from Fairport, where the Fairport Baptist home is very, very involved in the community and provides a service called Sophie for transportation and different things. Well, maybe it's possible down the line that St. Anne's would look at really supporting the community in that way. Who knows? Next domain is social participation. And the big one here is everyone that we talk to. Now, there are people, obviously, who go to the senior center and it fits their needs. But everybody that, many people believe that Pine Grove's not really meeting the needs right now. From the physical space to what's provided within the physical space. So we are suggesting looking at updating, and I believe actually the center is going to have some inside updates soon. But to update that program and look at what's provided for older adults. Is it really meeting the needs of a new generation of older adults? And in fact, senior centers, as they were originally funded in the mid-1960s, are not meeting the needs of a whole new generation of older adults nationwide. So there's a real effort going on to transform those centers into places that will help the next generation of older adults. So we said, visit other centers to learn what's working. Consider perhaps moving it. I know this has come up before. People said they don't know, in addition to maybe not feeling like it meets their needs, some people don't know what goes on there. And we did go over to the senior center and we met with Marcy, and there's a lot of programming that she's trying to implement, but maybe people don't know about it. So again, that communication thing, getting the word out. Another thing to consider, and this is done in other places, is to consider joint use agreements with, for example, a school. Hey, if the school's not being used after whatever, in the afternoon or on a Saturday or whatever, Maybe it can be used for a senior activity. Just a thought. In the domain of housing, Irondequoit is an inner ring suburb, pretty much built out. It's not like there's a lot of land to build new on, so something would have to be taken down. But one of the recommendations for age-friendly communities nationwide is to look at zoning practices, and how zoning affects older adults. For example, nationwide, there are some communities that are looking at, the regulations behind ramps, or the regulations behind adding a room in the back for like a mother-in-law room or something like that. Just different things that can be looked at. Also, there's a lot of national discussion about stop putting the senior housing on the fringes of communities, on the sort of the cheap the cheap land near the expressway, because then it's not integrated into the fabric of the community, and they're far away from things, and they're isolated, which is just isolating for older adults. Consider supporting a home modification service. Lifespan actually has a home mod service, a service targeted to fall prevention. And every year we do modifications, minor home modifications in about 600 homes. But we don't advertise it because we can't keep up with the requests just that come in for it. We come in and do a safety assessment for fall prevention, that kind of thing. Consider ways to assist with home upkeep and chores. Again, you saw that about 56%, I think it was, of older adults say that sometimes they need help. They need help raking or snow shoveling or taking out that air conditioner or whatever it is, changing light bulbs. People call us for that kind of a list all the time, and who's the handyman who's trustworthy? Unfortunately, our lawyers won't let us do that kind of a list, because what happens if something goes wrong? So we'll talk more about this later when one of my overarching recommendations. Another thing that came up in the survey was the difficulty people have bagging their leaves. I live in the city, and they come right to my curb, and I would just rake them. So I was shocked. I didn't know. But, all of this, some of it may not be possible. Some of it impacts taxes. Some of it impacts public works. So, these are just recommendations to things to look at. Again, some are short-term, some might be longer-term. In the domain of communication and information, again, came out loud and clear to us. People said they don't have enough information about older adult services. Now, I do TV ads for Lifespan all the time. I do newsletters. We send out, we do try to get the public to know about us. And last year we helped 28,000 people. So sometimes it surprises me that people still don't know, but they say they don't know. So instead of buying TV this year, I'm going to devote my advertising marketing budget to actually mailing resources to people's homes. I'm going to do that not only at Irondequoit, but I'm going to pick a couple other towns, and I'm going to see what the reaction is and what happens. And then, people said, yes, mail to my house. That's the most direct method. But they also said, yes, use the Irondequoit Post, and everybody wishes the Irondequoit Post was more news and less ads. But, we can't influence that too much. Use websites, use email, and of course, as those will probably become more popular methods of communication as the younger people start moving into their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Community support and health services. Again, one of the things was, and it came out again, people don't know where to call for information and guidance. Strikes me in the heart. And again, we are committed to trying to help solve that. Other needs expressed by the residents. Again, we've talked about this a little bit. People said, get the mall issue fixed. I'm sure Adam knows about that. More high-end retail people want. Goes along with the mall, I guess. Quality shopping. Get the empty stores filled kind of thing. So, in conclusion from all of that data, We really can say, it goes across the board. People want more effective, cost-effective, convenient transportation. Now everybody would love, that car to come pick you up, sort of the Uber thing, and someone takes you to where you are and helps you, that kind of thing. It's not always possible. Two, people kind of are frustrated, and we get these calls all the time. They want that vetted list. They want to know who they can call. There's a need for a 20th century older adult center, very, very frankly. In-town housing options, better sidewalks and lighting, leaf collection, additional shopping options, ... So I have a couple of overarching recommendations that we're making to the town. And one of them involves this neighbor helping neighbors concept. And this is happening in places around the country. There's a famous one in Boston. It's happening right here, though, too. The Browncroft neighborhood and the Azalea neighborhood, which is up near Highland Park in the city, they have developed, it's a work in progress all the time, but they're developing this neighbor helping neighbors concept where, hey, if you can drive me to the doctor's on Tuesday, I'll make you a casserole you can have on Thursday. Or the younger folks in the neighborhood say, yeah, you know what, I can take an extra meal over to that person, or I can take them to grocery shop on Saturday, that kind of thing. Interestingly enough, in fact, in Browncroft, they also they maintain a list of home provider services that they recommend to each other. They've also partnered with our Give a Lift service to train volunteer drivers to take people places. And in Beacon Hill, this is the one in Boston, it's a membership organization. You pay into it, and then you get you get what you need out of it. This is to say that not every solution is government-based. It can't be. There's not enough tax money in the world. You saw the demographics. There's not going to be enough tax money in the world to meet all of the needs. Government can't do it. Social service providers like Lifespan can't do it. We're overwhelmed some days. We get more than 100 phone calls a day some days into our little call center when people ask for help. So at some point, people have to help themselves, actually. Another overarching recommendation that actually might feed into that neighbor helping neighbors concept is yes, because people were so enthusiastic about establishing this senior living community. And what if people on that senior living community took a neighborhood and tried to get the neighbor helping neighbors concept going? What if they did that sidewalk walkability survey? What if they looked at all of those kinds of things? Because again, Carrie's not going to be able to do it. She's got a full-time job, and Adam's got, all the people in town hall. But if we form a senior advisory committee, that not only helps with your engagement and your civic participation, but it helps solve some of the problems that are caused by an aging community. Also, some of the things that we want to do to make the town age-friendly. So 85% of people said forming such a council was a good idea. And as Paul said, 300 people actually gave us their names and phone numbers and addresses to volunteer to be on it. Now, we don't want 300 people on this council, but it really might go a long way to helping Irondequoit become a town for a lifetime and helping to make the town age-friendly. So those are our recommendations to the town. We have copies of the executive summary, which is about, 14 pages. My final report to the town right now is more than 70 pages, and will include some tabs and examples and things. That'll go to the town, to Adam and the town board members and whoever else they want to give it to. We really hope, as I was doing this, you always get the thing in your back of your mind, like, okay, another report that will sit on a shelf. So we hope this one, doesn't, and I really trust Adam that won't happen. But again, not everything can be solved by government. It's going to take all of us really contributing, and all of us, really looking at those huge demographics and saying, okay, what can we do? What can we do together? So I want to thank you for coming tonight. I don't know if Adam's going to take some questions right now, and I'll help, if I can answer any other questions, I'll be glad to. Really want to thank you for coming, for your input, for those of you who were here for the forums and or the focus groups. Thank you very much. It's really been a fun project. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. And that is the point of doing the senior service study here, was to help guide the town and the policymakers, which is why your town board is here tonight as well, and how we invest your money, your tax dollars, and also some grant funding that we receive every year from the federal government. That was the point behind the survey to begin with, was the fact that we receive a certain number of dollars from the federal government that we can spend on services for our older population, our seniors, also folks with disabilities, and income levels. And so part of the reason we wanted to do this study was so that we could better coordinate what programs we're funding, how we're spending the money to make sure we're meeting your needs. And the results of this study, to me, and the survey here, the survey in particular was dramatic, actually. It turns out a few of the areas we were investing some funds, we weren't actually investing them the right way. So now we can look at this and apply that to some of the funds that we have. It's going to take some time. We're going to take this study. This isn't something we're going to solve and be able to do everything all in one year. But we can start now taking these recommendations and start ticking them off, just like we did with the comprehensive master plan that the town passed just a couple of years ago as well. So as far as next steps goes, what I'd like to do is make sure everybody here, please sign the sign-in sheet that Carrie has over there. Make sure you sign in so we know how to get in touch with you. And you're also going to take with you a copy of the executive summary. Hopefully we have enough copies for everybody. If we don't, we will get them to you, so make sure you sign up. And then when the final plan, and then in the next couple of days and next couple of weeks, I want you to read the executive summary, provide any additional feedback that you'd like us to see before the final plan comes to the town board. And when the final plan is there, we will make that available and let you know it's available, and then we'll start communicating, because it turns out communication is the key, and it's something that we're lacking. So we will communicate to you that the plan is available, where it's available. We'll make the full plan available to you so you could see it, and then the town board can start working on implementing, hopefully, a number of those recommendations. So thank you all again for coming here today. I'm going to stay here after the meeting. Our town board members, raise your hand, town board. They're here, so please feel free to come see me, the town board, Lifespan, Carrie, and thanks again for being here. All right. Have a great night.